وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. This is ayah number 152, and this is the ayah we did last time. And we did some points about this ayah, one or two points to be mentioned that the commentators have mentioned about this ayah are supposed to be mentioned today. That is why we will not move on to the next ayah. We will do the same ayah. I will do the translation, and we'll go on to do some of the commentary on this. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ. And surely Allah has fulfilled His promise to you. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ إِسْتَحُسُّونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ. And that you were killing them off with His will, بِإِذْنِهِ حَتَّى إِذَا فَشِلْتُمْ, until you became weak. وَتَنَعْزَاتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and you disputed in the affairs. وَعَسَيْتُمْ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ, and you disobeyed after you saw that which you love. And what is that which you love? It is the spoils of the war, the booty of the war. Minkum man yuridu dunya, and among you there are some who love the world. Wa minkum man yuridul akhirah, and among you there are some who desire, who seek the akhirah. Summa sarafakum, and then Allah reversed your position. Summa sarafakum anhum waliyabtaliyakum, so that He may test you. وَلَقَدْ عَفَا عَنْكُمْ, and surely He has forgiven you. وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and surely Allah is full of mercy, full of grace for the believers. So this is the ayah that we did last time. And if you remember, last time we did about 3 or 4 points about this ayah. And one of the important points about this ayah was that this is the ayah in which Allahu Akbar, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the war of the Uhud. And what happened in that war? It was the second war of Islam. The first one was Badr, and the Muslims won that war. And Muslims were very weak. In spite of being very weak, they still won. And in this war, the Muslims were in a stronger position. And the war was also very close to the city of Medina in Uhud. The first one was in Badr, 200 kilometers from the city, from the blessed city of Madinatul Munawwarah. And Uhud is right there, a few kilometers from the blessed masjid of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And the Muslims were in a better position, but they lost. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that the Muslims were killing them off. And the Muslims were winning in the beginning. These are the words of Allah. Istahassunahum bizni, with His will you were killing them off. But then you start losing the war. And what happened? Hatta iza fashiltum, that you became weak. وَتَنَعْزَاتُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and you disputed among yourselves. وَعَسَيْتُمْ, and then you disobeyed. مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا أَرَاكُمْ مَا تُحِبُّونَ, and you disobeyed after you saw that which you love. When you saw the spoils of the war, when you saw the booty, you disobeyed. The Prophet ﷺ told a group of around 50 companions to stand on a certain part of the mountain of Uhud and to not move. And the Muslims were killing them off until they thought that they had all left. So when all of them had left and it seemed as if, the war has been won, these people who were told by the Prophet ﷺ that you should not move from this place no matter what, they started moving and they started running after the kuffar so that they can get the booty of the war, the spoils of the war. And they didn't know that they had left their positions, and there were some kuffar who were there who attacked when they saw that there was no one to protect the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to protect the city of Medina, to protect the Muslim army. So they attacked and they inflicted a lot of loss. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also got some wounds on his blessed body. So this is what happened. And in the end, you cannot say who won the war, but a war which was completely won became disputed, whether it was won or lost. So there are some points the commentators mentioned here. And one of those important points is that failure comes because of three things. Or there are three comments about this ayah. One is that failure comes when you disobey the Amir, when you disobey your leader of the group. That is for sure a recipe for failure. Another reason why you fail is that when the love of the world enters the heart. So when the maqsad, the purpose is not to please Allah, and the purpose of this war or the purpose of your work of deen is dunya, then that purpose is not befitting for this job, and that leads to failure. And the third important thing about this ayah, that when somebody does tawbah for his sins, Allah forgives the sins. So again, this was only the second war. And Allah wanted to teach one more lesson, that success is only from Allah. In the first war of Badr, Muslims were weak, weapons were less, but Iman was at that height, and Allah's mercy was there, and Muslims won. The second war, Muslims lost, although they were stronger in position. They were more in number. So Allah wanted to show us, all of us, that success belongs to Allah. Success does not lie in the asbab, in the things of the world. And in this ayah, another thing that is important to mention is that this love for the things of the world, love for the wealth of the world leads to a very big fault. Love of this world leads to all the faults. The Prophet ﷺ has said, حُبُّ الدُّنْيَا رَأْسُ كُلِّ خَطِيئَةٍ, that the love of the world is the reason for all the faults that we do. And then in many other ahadith and also in the Quran, Allah has mentioned that this dunya is very short-lived. Akhirah is the real abode. That is why we should not have any love for this dunya, any attraction, any attachment to the dunya. The Prophet ﷺ said, Kun fi dunya ka'annaka gharib. Live in this world as if you are a traveler. So we should live in this world like a traveler. We should not attach ourselves to this world. When we travel for a few days to other cities, we don't attach ourselves to that city. We are not attracted by that city. We know that we are here for a few days. Whatever job that we are here to do, we should do that job and we should leave. And the time for enjoyment and time for fun is when we go back home. So same is the case with this dunya. This dunya is a place where we will live for a very short time. So one should not develop this love of dunya in his heart. Some people have this misconception that the love of dunya means that you should not work, you should not have a business, you should not go to school, and you should just not have a house, you should not have a family. This is sometimes the definition of how one can leave the dunya. Or sometimes people think that this is the sign that we don't love the dunya. But the sign for not loving the dunya, the sign for the love of this dunya is that when dunya is on your mind all the time, when you're thinking about dunya all the time, this is a sign that you have the love of dunya in your heart. The second sign that you have the love of dunya in your heart is that when spending in the path of Allah becomes difficult. Spending on your own self is easy. Spending on your family members, spending on your relatives, spending on poor people, spending on the work of deen, this is difficult. So when it becomes difficult to spend on others, this is another sign that there's love of dunya inside the heart. In fact, if you don't spend on others, it is a sign that you have not gotten even close to piety. The Prophet the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in the Quran, لَن تَنَالُوا الْبِرَّ. You will never come close to piety. حَتَّى تُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا تُحِبُّونَ. Till you spend that which you love. Till you spend that wealth that you love. So when spending in the path of Allah becomes difficult, again it is a sign that love of Allah or love of the dunya has entered the heart. Another sign of the love of dunya is that when somebody is offered dunya and he does not turn towards Allah, and he just grabs it with both hands, not seeing whether it is halal or haram, not seeing whether Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is liking it for me or not. One just runs towards the dunya no matter how it comes. Hasan Basri rahimahullah says that I was taught this, this abstention from dunya by a child. So somebody was very shocked that how can somebody teach Hasan Basri, one of the biggest scholars, one of the biggest wali of Allah, how can a small child teach him abstention from dunya? He said, well, a small child came to me with his father and I gave him a toffee, and kids love toffees and candies and things like that. And he also loved it, but he did not take it from me. And he looked at his father and the father did not respond. So he thought that my father has not allowed me to take it, so I should not take it. I again offered it to him. Now his father said to him that, oh, my son, take it from Hazrat, take it from the Shaykh, and then he took it from me. So this whole incident taught me how one should abstain from dunya, that when dunya comes towards you, you should not grab and you should not run towards it. You should first look towards Allah. Whether Allah thinks that it is right for me or not, then I should take a step. So love of dunya is not that you are rich and you have money and you have a job and you have a family. Love of dunya is when dunya is always on the mind. And the second sign of the love of dunya is that when spending on others becomes difficult. And the third sign of the love of dunya is that when dunya is offered to you, one does not turn towards Allah. And the fourth sign of the love of dunya, that you have no fikr, you have no attention towards the akhirah. So if you're always thinking about the akhirah, and if you're doing amal which are going to make you successful in the akhirah, then it is a sign that there's no love of dunya inside of it. So the more you do the ibadah, you worship Allah, the more it is a sign that there is no love of Allah, there is no love of dunya inside of your heart. Shaykh Sadi rahimahullah says, Cheest dunya az khuda ghafil budan. That what is this love of dunya other than being neglectful of Allah? So the one who remembers Allah more is the one who has abstained from dunya more. And the one who does not remember Allah, who does not remember the akhirah, he is the one who is entangled in the love of this world. So these are the four signs of the love of the world. This was some of the tafsir that was left of this beautiful ayah of the Quran. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to do amal on all the parts of the Quran. I will do the translation one more time and then we will end this class with a short dua. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. وَلَقَدْ صَدَقَكُمُ اللَّهُ وَعْدَهُ. And surely Allah has fulfilled His promise. Is تَحُسُّونَهُمْ بِإِذْنِهِ. That when you are killing them off with His will. حتى إذا فشلتم. And then you became weak. وتنازعتم في الأمر. And you started disputing in the matter. وعصيتم. And you disobeyed. من بعد ما أراكم ما تحبون. After you saw that what you love, the spoils of the war. منكم من يريد الدنيا. And among you there are who seek the world. ومنكم من يريد الآخرة. And there are among you some of them who seek the akhirah. ثم صرفكم. And then Allah reversed the position عنهم, from you. ليبتليكم, so that He can test you. وَلَقَدْ عَفَى عَنْكُمْ. And surely Allah has forgiven you. وَاللَّهُ ذُو فَضْلٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. And Allah is full of grace for the mu'mineen. So we stop here. We make a short dua and then inshallah we'll end our class. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Anbiya wal-Mursaleen. Allahumma inna nas'aluka ilman nafi'a wa amalan mutaqabbala wa lisanan dhakir wa qalban khashi'a wa rizqan wasi'a wa shifa'an min kulli da. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala habibihi سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. جزاكم الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.